Hi YouTube subscribers. Hi guys. Hi YouTube world. I did want to continue where I left off in my last video talking about my pregnancy and what's been going on and about like the gestational diabetes. And what led up to me going to the hospital. So, it's kind of funny because I'm a nurse, but I'm always like, I never want to go to the hospital. Like, as a patient, I never want to go, and I'm always like, I'll be fine, whatever. But with pregnancy, there's so many, like, potential complications, and this being my first child, like, you have all these worries, and obviously if you follow me, you know it's taken 4 years for us to get pregnant. So I think that makes both of us probably more worried, just like that everything will be okay because it took so long for us to get pregnant. So anyway, what I was gonna tell you guys is, so the other, I guess this was like about a week or so ago, I was at work one night and I hadn't been put on light duty yet. You know, in my head, I thought I'm gonna work through my whole pregnancy and just, you know, do the heavy load that I do normally on my crazy unit. I work on a neuro unit. And I do enjoy it, but it's a very heavy floor. We get a lot of confused patients who are trying to jump out of bed. We get a lot of, like, total care patients who are very disabled from their strokes or whatever, and they need to be, you basically need to do, like, everything for them, like even down to just turning or moving them in bed. And probably when I got to be about 30 weeks or so, I realized, like, I couldn't really lift patients like how I had been in the beginning of my pregnancy, and that it just got too hard. Like, I could still lift patients that are light, but, like, heavier patients were just really hard for me, compared to how normally sometimes I'd have to ask for somebody to do it for me or whatever. So anyway, at around 34 weeks, I went to work one night, and I didn't even have a bad assignment. I had an easy assignment, but it was from one end of the hallway to the other. Like, my unit is not very designed very nurse friendly. Like, it's an older, it was built, I think, kind of a while ago, and to get to, like, one med room to the other, or to get to some patient rooms, you have to go from one end of the hall all the way to the other, instead of it being like a circle or a U shape. And so, you know, you can't see your patient that's in another room sometimes because they're all the way at the end of the hallway, which makes it hard when you have jumpers and more than one jumper, or you have more than one, like, critically ill patient and your rooms are not close together. So anyway, so I was, like, walking that night, you know, from one end of the hall to the other, and I just was having so many, like, Braxton Hicks or contractions. And that day I had a doctor appointment, and they told me when I was doing my non-stress test, they came in at one point, and I had been sleeping because I was tired. You know, you're always tired when you're pregnant, especially in the beginning and the end. And I was sleeping, and they're like, the tech came in, she's like, you know, you're having contractions. And I was like, no, I was sleeping. And she's like, yeah, you're having a lot of them. You know, the doctor wants to keep monitoring you. We're going to leave you on here for like 10 extra minutes or whatever. And I was like, okay. And then I kind of got like a little concerned. They let me go after 10 minutes, but they're like, yeah, you're having a lot of contractions. And I didn't really, I think I might have been having them even before then, but I just always thought they were like the baby moving, especially as she gets down lower, like making me uncomfortable. But now I can tell the difference between the two. It's kind of more like the contractions are more like a tightening of my stomach and then like a release of it, and it's definitely more uncomfortable. And they've been getting stronger and stronger. Versus when the baby moves, it can be a little uncomfortable sometimes because there's not much room there anymore. But it's more just like, it doesn't hurt and there's no like squeezing or whatever. I didn't realize those were contractions because they were in my stomach. And I always thought, oh, you get contractions more like down below. I didn't realize, no, actually I was reading online, like it starts for a lot of women in their back or in their stomach. And then, just keeps getting stronger and stronger. But I thought I'd always heard contractions described as like period cramps, which feel totally different to me than this feeling. So anyway, after that, I went to work and I had been kind of like cleaning and just moving around a lot because I was told with the gestational diabetes, like, you want to be exercising all the time. Well, I think like I overdid it and I wasn't like drinking enough and just kind of taking care of myself enough, because then when I went to work, my contractions were so bad that walking from one end of the hallway to the other, it was like, I had to like walk really slow. Luckily, my aide was really good. He was helpful. But I was like, oh my God, like I need to sit down. Like I had this feeling like I shouldn't be taking care of people right now. Like I should be resting. And I'm giving people meds while I'm like trying to breathe through these contractions or whatever. And I'm like, I am more sick than most of my patients tonight, like that are just being monitored. So I was like, this doesn't feel right. And then I started getting worried, like, how is this affecting the baby? So anyway, I got through my assignment and I remember just like, I just didn't feel good. Like I felt like, am I coming down with something? Like, almost a little bit feverish almost. So then the next day I was like, I think I just kind of was taking it easy or whatever before I went back to work. And then as I was getting dressed to go to work, I went to the bathroom and I noticed blood, which scared me because I haven't had blood at all, like, knock on wood, like the whole pregnancy. Like I haven't had spotting, nothing. And I was like, oh my God, I'm bleeding. Like, what is going on? Am I going into labor? It wasn't like I was having clots or something like that, or like bright red blood, but it was definitely enough for me to be worried, like blood tinged urine. And there was a decent amount, so I called my work. I told them, look, I can't come in tonight. I gotta go to the hospital and see what's going on, because I was just worried because the contraction thing was new. It'd never been that intense before, and now I have blood and I've never had that. So I called my husband, let him know, and then he was like coming home, so I just waited for him to get home, and then we went to the hospital. So they hooked me up and we're running like a urine test and all this, and they did like a cervical exam, which is rather not pleasant at all. Oh my god, that was horrible. But anyway, basically they told me I wasn't dilated, but I was having contractions on the monitor, like, and that by that point, like, my contractions had gotten better from the night before, but they're still were coming sporadically. And so basically they were like, we think you have a UTI, and they gave me antibiotics. They told me to drink a lot of fluids, and they're like, yeah, you definitely have blood in your urine. So they said the baby was fine though, and my cervix was not like dilated, so they didn't think I was starting labor. And they told me to come back like if the bleeding started again, or like got worse, or like with the contractions. So then we went home, and like I felt like a lot better just going to the hospital, even though I didn't want to, just to make sure like the baby was okay, that everything was fine, like, because I would have been worrying all night at work, and like I was the night before when I was getting these contractions. So that's why I went to the hospital. Everything's fine though, guys. As far as the diabetes and everything, the baby is measuring bigger than what she should be. So they guesstimate on your ultrasound how big the baby will be. The last one I had, they said 7.5 pounds. Now it's not 100% accurate. There's like 15% error. They say like a pound or so can be off. But they said that she's 7.5 pounds already at, I think this was at 34 weeks. So when I met with my doctors on Thursday, they said they're going to induce me at 37 or 38 weeks. So instead of like a Christmas baby, we will be having a Thanksgiving baby, which I'm fine with. By this point, I'm just like, I want to get her out of me. Like, the baby room's set up pretty much. I'm just so freaking uncomfortable. I'm exhausted from pregnancy. I'm constant. The contractions keep coming, but they come in like waves, and they feel like waves when they're squeezing you, kind of. But I'll go through, like, usually I'll either be getting them in the morning or at night, and I'll get them for like several hours, where it's like back to back, and then they just go away, and like they become like one every couple hours or something. Like right now I don't have any, but last night when I was at work, and I finally I got put on light duty after that, because after that I got a note from my doctor, and then I didn't know it had to go through HR first, because nobody told me, which was great. But my manager's got it like taken care of right away. So after that I was like, I gotta go on light duty, there's no way. So I've been doing light duty. They've kind of been putting me wherever. Like, that's been a little stressful. It reminds me again of like when the COVID crisis first hit Arizona. They were floating me wherever because I'm not supposed to be with COVID patients, and you kind of have to be flexible, like you have to go with the flow, because it's like, well, you're right, I don't want to work with COVID patients, but then you have to like pick up new skills like quickly, and luckily I'm a fast learner, but it can be stressful, especially if like you don't have a lot of help, or people don't really want to help train you. It's like, oh God, you just feel like you're thrown to the wolves a little bit. If you're in that scenario, which I have been. But so like lately I've just been all over the place with nursing. Like, I started off my nursing career in a SNF that was an airway unit. So like a lot of trachs and vents, and I did that for a year. Then I started on the floor I'm on now, over a year ago, and that's a neuro unit. But I've been floated because of COVID, I got floated to cardiac. I've done that for a few months, and then I did observation for like a month. And then with the light duty, I've been in the monitor tech room, like monitoring heart rhythms. And then I've also been floated to postpartum. So, and then I've done like secretary type work at the nurse's station. And that's stressful because, like, usually you don't really get training. They're just like, here you go. And it's not like, oh, I get training shifts. Like, I'm training as I'm working. So that's been stressful when, depending where you're working, if the people are willing to help you or not. But I'm just glad to be off my feet, especially because sometimes I will have those contractions really bad at work. It seems like I get them more when I'm at work. I don't know if that's because of stress, probably, or I don't know. That's just when my body seems to get more active, is like in the nighttime, because that's when the baby gets more active. I don't know. But last night I was having a lot of so thank God I was off my feet. But I was also pretty stressed out because I was in the monitor tech room and the person didn't really want to help train me at first, and it was just a mess. But eventually I did get trained by somebody else, and anyway, it worked out. But yeah, so that's what's been going on, guys. Today I haven't really been having too many contractions, but last night I was having a ton. I've been trying to like drink a lot, like stay hydrated to help with the contractions, and because I don't want to get more like bleeding or another UTI or whatever. They told me they weren't, like, it wasn't 100% sure that I had a UTI because, as I know from being a nurse, like, usually you look for, there's certain indicators on your urine, like you have a lot of nitrates and stuff. They said I didn't really have that, but I had a lot of blood, which was obvious. But because I wasn't going into labor and I was having contractions, they're like, we think it's a UTI. I think it was too, like the starting of a UTI, but I don't know. I've read online, like sometimes before labor you can have like a bloody show is what they call it. And so I don't know if that was that. I don't know. But the bleeding, knock on wood, has stopped since I left the hospital, so that's good. And I'm done my antibiotics. So the baby should be here in just a couple weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks, they're saying. Next Thursday I find out the date for sure. And my mom's going to come stay with me for like a week, like right before the baby's born, and then help for a little bit after. So that'll be great. Really excited. You know, especially when I was working postpartum, I'm like, I just want my baby. Like, looking at all the babies, I'm like, I just want to hold my baby. So, I feel like we're as ready as we can be. We're nervous, but mostly just excited, and I'm equally excited about not being pregnant anymore, not being on this, like, ridiculous diet and checking my sugar